Rejection. Ugh, we've all been there, right? It's that awful sting that can make you question, well, everything. But what if I told you that pain could actually be turned into power? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. We're going to look at how to build real resilience, starting with those moments that hurt the absolute most. You know the feeling. It often starts with a message just like this. A few simple words on a screen, but man, they feel anything but simple. It's the classic line, isn't it? And it just lands like a punch to the gut. Suddenly, what could have been a great connection feels like a total personal failure.
Or maybe you've gotten this one, the polite dismissal. That classic, "You're great, but." And somehow, that one feels even worse, right? Because it suggests there's this mystery something missing in you, a spark, a chemistry that just isn't there for them.
And then there's this one. This might be the most painful of all. The slow fade, or just poof, the connection is gone. This is the one that really sends you spiraling. Because if someone can just lose feelings for you, what does that say about your worth? It all boils down to one single burning question.
This is the question that just echoes in your head after the sting of rejection, isn't it? It stops being about just one person, and it starts feeling like a pattern. And when you're the only common denominator in all of these stories, it's just so natural to start wondering, am I the problem? Does it all start and end with me?
So look, before we can even think about moving forward, we have to acknowledge that pain. It is so real. When you see a pattern of rejection, it feels incredibly personal because, well, you're the common denominator in every single one of those stories. But recognizing that isn't about blaming yourself. It's actually the very first step toward understanding what's really going on. But right here, this is the turning point. Once we've sat with that sting for a bit, we have a choice. We can either let it define us, or we can completely change how we see the whole situation. This is where we start to reframe our own worth. So check this out. There are two completely different ways to look at rejection. On the one hand, you can see it as a verdict on your value, like a judge slamming down a gavel. But on the other hand, you can see it as just a statement of a mismatch. Think about it like two puzzle pieces that just don't fit together. It's not that one piece is bad or wrong, they just aren't a match. It all comes down to one thing: compatibility.
Here's the thing you have to remember. Dating is not an audition. You're not there to prove you're good enough. It's a search. You're out there looking for that rare person who just clicks, who naturally aligns with you. So when you hear a no, it's not a failure. It's actually a gift. It's someone saving you time by self-selecting out so you don't waste your energy on the wrong fit.
You know, this reminds me of this amazing parable. A father gives his son a simple-looking stone and says, "Go find out what this is worth." So the son goes to the market and someone offers him $2. Then he goes to a museum and they offer him $200. Finally, he takes it to a precious stone expert who looks at it and says, "This is a rare gem. It's worth $200,000. Now think about that. The stone never changed. The only thing that changed was the audience, the environment that knew how to see its true value. It's such a powerful reminder that you get to decide where you place yourself. Are you going to hang out in the $2 market, or are you going to find your museum?
Okay, another huge trap we fall into after rejection is comparison. It is so easy to start looking around at other people and wondering what they have that you don't. But I'm telling you, it's a guaranteed path to misery. There's a story about a crow who was completely unhappy because he wasn't white like a swan or colorful like a parrot. He only found peace when it hit him. He was the only one of them who wasn't kept in a cage. He was free. Comparison is a trap. Your journey is yours and yours alone.
All right, so you've started to reframe your worth, which is awesome. But now you've got two big bosses to fight. First, there are the negative voices from the outside, the critics. And then there's that fear deep down inside. So let's take on the critics first. There's this really powerful story I want to share with you. It's about a painter. He finishes what he thinks is his masterpiece, but he wants to make it perfect. So he takes it to the town square and leaves a note next to it that says, "Please, mark any mistake you find." And by the end of the day, the result was absolutely devastating. His beautiful painting was just destroyed, covered in marks and circles and scratches. The crowd had torn his work, and probably his confidence, completely to shreds. It was like everyone in town had found some flaw to point out.
So the painter was heartbroken, obviously, but he was also wise. So the next day, he tries a new experiment. He brings out an identical painting, a perfect copy, and puts it in the exact same spot. But this time, the note is different. This time it says, "Please correct any mistake you find."
And you know what happened? Absolutely nothing. Not one person picked up a brush. The painting was left completely untouched. The lesson here is so powerful, isn't it? It is easy to criticize. It is a lot harder to create or to actually make something better.
So, that painter's story really shows us that critics are gonna be everywhere. The real skill is knowing which voices to ignore. It actually reminds me of another great story about 5 frogs stuck in a deep pit. All the frogs up top are shouting down, "You'll never make it, just give up." And 4 of the frogs listen. They give up, and they're stuck. But the 5th frog, he just keeps trying, and eventually he makes it out. You know why? He was deaf. He couldn't hear all their negativity. And sometimes that's exactly what we need to do. We need to become deaf to the negativity that isn't helping us grow.
Okay, so once we tune out the critics, we've still got to face our own internal fear. It's like the story of the man who stood terrified by a river because everyone told him it was full of crocodiles and dangerous currents. He was too afraid to cross. But then he sees a little boy drowning, and without a second thought, he jumps in and pulls him to safety. And in that moment, he realized there were no crocodiles, there were no killer currents. The only real obstacle was ever in his own mind.
So with that new mindset starting to take root, it's time for action. And look, this isn't about some huge dramatic gesture. It's all about the small, consistent, daily efforts that build real, unbreakable strength.
Let me tell you about the cracked pot. There was this man who carried 2 pots of water every day. One pot was perfect, the other one had a crack in it, and it leaked the whole way home. The cracked pot felt like a failure. But years later, the man pointed out that the side of the path where the cracked pot leaked was full of beautiful flowers. Its so-called imperfection was watering them every single day. The lesson here is huge. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to show up, embrace your cracks, and let consistency do the work.
You know, there's this great Zen quote that goes, "When you have one eye fixed on the goal, you only have one eye left for your path." It comes from a story about a student who asks his master how long it'll take to reach enlightenment. The master says, 10 years. The student says, "What if I work twice as hard?" And the master replies, "Then it'll take you 20. The point is, the more obsessed we get with the destination, like finding the one, the more we miss the actual journey. We miss the path right in front of us.
All right, let's bring all this home. After we've gone through the sting of rejection, reframed our worth, and focused on consistent effort, what's the fundamental truth we're left with? It's this: you were never broken in the first place.
So here are the core lessons to hold on to. First, rejection is just redirection. It's pointing you toward where you're actually supposed to be. Second, your worth is inherent. It's like that precious stone. It's not something someone else gives you. Third, consistency always beats intensity. It's the small daily steps, not the giant leaps. And finally, true courage is not the absence of fear. It's feeling that fear and doing it anyway. It's about facing it head on.
And really, that is the ultimate takeaway here. You are still worthy. You are still whole. And with every single rejection, you are simply one step closer to the person who is meant for you. Every no you hear isn't a judgment on you. It's just clearing the path. It's not taking anything away from you. It's moving you closer to the person who will see your incredible value without you ever having to prove it. Because you are, and you always have been, more than enough.